You know, sometimes in therapy, when a patient is undergoing a moment of healing, of integrating a childhood wound of some sort, or in clearing the root of some trauma that is manifesting itself in some adult onset neurosis, a lot of times that healing experience in the context of therapy happens in an extremely what you might call unself-conscious state, an extremely uninhibited state, an extremely visceral state that is often simply labeled a state of regression, right? It is said that you regress to an earlier state of consciousness and re-experience the traumatic incident from the point of view of that earlier you. So we call this regression. But I actually think there can be no liberation or transformation or growth of any kind without regression in the psychotherapeutic process. If you don't go back to the origin story of that fear, of that pathology, if you don't go back to that emotional origin set point, if you don't regress, you will not heal. So in a sense, the terrifying proposition that I'm making is that we have to be willing to relive and re-encounter those, and re-encounter those night terrors. I believe it was Joseph Campbell who said, "The cave you fear holds the treasure you seek," right? So those childhood traumas then become these emotional set points we don't dare revisit, and so we try to repress and push aside and numb ourselves from having to face those issues, and so this repression manifests itself in our pathological rumination and neuroticism, and then we're trying to medicate that, and then so on and so forth, and we're a mess, and it's all because we refuse to face our shadows, to look at the cave that we fear, which in fact is the treasure we seek. And so I guess what I'm saying is that in the journey of self-knowing, right, in the journey of wanting to heal of our fractures and come back into wholeness, there is going to have to be a facing of that which we fear most, which is remembering, right? Like remembering that thing that happened, that traumatic inciting incident, the door we don't want to look behind. We're going to have to go there. We're going to have to lay it all on the table. We're going to have to be like, well, to risk allowing it to destroy us, only to endure beyond that destruction and realize that we are more than our traumas and that our spirit is stronger than those traumas. And so this surrendering, this relapsing, this disarming, this surrendering of all of our affordances and making ourselves vulnerable again, right? The healing process of going back to the place we fear is a powerful thing, but it also allows us to dispassionately see it, because that going back, it's not actually happening again, right? You're reliving it, but you're now safe, right? In therapy, there's this separation, right, that you now call aesthetic distance. You may be mediated by MDMA so that your nervous system is not so triggered and primed. Your mind and soul can go back, but now you're safe in the movie theater seat watching playback. In other words, you can look at it up close. You can see the thing you fear, but now you're safe. You are more powerful than that thing. That thing is a mere abstraction. You are a grounded being that lives in the here and now. And so I guess what I'm saying, friends, is... No, please. Hello. Hi, guys. So I guess what I'm saying is that to arrive at a place of equanimity, to arrive at a place where we have come to terms with all of those issues and come to terms with all of those parts of ourselves that are scary and that are ugly and that are so on and so forth, until we do that whole thing, we cannot come back into wholeness. And so this really becomes an invitation to embrace the whole possibility, embrace the surrender that is required on the pathway to healing. Have the faith to believe that you can be brought back to life. and that you're safe to go back to those places and spaces that did you harm, and that you're strong enough to forgive yourself, and in an act of self-compassion, make it okay for the you know, back then, and forgive yourself for what you had to do to survive. And I think that whole process is profoundly healing, and that final act of sort of redemption and self-acceptance and self-compassion, and you know, it's that moment that says one day we'll fall down and weep and understand it all things. But I mean, it really starts with our own story, and you know, finding equanimity, closure, grace, catharsis, reconciliation. Reconciliation, that's the rehabilitation, is the moment where we reconciliate, where the two opposing thesis and antithesis converge in synthesis. Paradox is reconciled, healing and resurrection is manifested therein. It's synchronicity, it's the encapsulation of inevitability, but also surprise. It's when the objective and narrative world touch. Believe that reconciliation is possible. That's how every story ends in the end, right? Everything will be okay in the end, because if it is not yet okay, then it is not yet the end. So I believe healing is like life. I think the life well lived is one that ends in reconciliation. And so if we can end in reconciliation, we've done it right. We've done it right. Cheers.